together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Told me I missed you. You picked at your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Sports.
Welcome to SportsGrid. I'm Mike Blewitt hosting NewsWire in for Craig Mish as he takes a couple of days off around the holiday. Hope you're enjoying your holiday setup these next couple of days. We have lots of sports to cover as you settle in. Maybe you're running around doing some last-minute errands right now, preparing for the holiday, or you have the day off and you're settling in to watch what we have on the docket today, which is more than 70 college basketball games. We'll prep for the 3 NFL games tomorrow. But we started off today with big baseball news, and that's Blake Snell signing with the Dodgers. Mike Feinsand, the first to report it, $182 million over 5 years. They will defer some of that money, Feinsand obviously with MLB Network. And another big signing for the Dodgers. What can you say? They keep getting after it. They come fresh off a World Series victory over my New York Yankees and assign one of the hotter prospects on the market in Blake Snell. They are still firmly in the Juan Soto sweepstakes, so we'll see how that plays out over the course of the next couple of weeks. But the Dodgers adding another arm. If there was a weakness going into the playoffs, many people said it was their rotation. Their bullpen was dominant for the most part in the playoffs. They got some good starts out of a few different players, but felt like they needed to shore that up with Walker Buehler being a free agent. Blake Snell at least fills one spot there for them. Let's move over to college football, where the committee's top 25 comes out last evening. Starts at the top with Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State. They are holding the byes right now, but we are in a situation where if Ohio State beats Michigan, they'll play Oregon in the Big Ten championship. You wonder if Penn State starts to get edged out as these conference championship games start to happen. Are there any surprises on there? For me, I don't think anything drastically. Alabama and Ole Miss and South Carolina just outside of that top 12, 13, 14, and 15. Alabama will have Auburn. South Carolina has the greatest chance to move up, I think, simply because they are playing a ranked opponent in Clemson, who is number 12 right now in the rankings. So that really the biggest game, one of the biggest games coming up this weekend. Texas A&M, Michigan, Ohio State. And then Clemson and South Carolina, really a game that could have a lot of impact on the rankings. Boise State finds themselves at number 11. And as we move forward into a bracket, a projected bracket, we see that the possibilities for Boise State to finish in front of one of the Power Four champs is real. They would have one of the byes if everything held as it is, as it plays forward. If it held that Boise State is in front of the Big 12 champ in this instance, Oregon, Miami, and Texas would conceivably have byes. But that's what I say every year in college football. We like to project ahead what we think is going to happen, and too many people do that by saying, well, this team's not going to lose another game, and this team's not going to lose another game. We certainly need to think what was going to happen Saturday night in the SEC was going to happen, but Alabama drops one to Oklahoma, and Ole Miss drops one, and Auburn beats Texas A&M in a huge upset. So I think there could be more upsets to come. Speaking of upsets, as we turn over to college basketball, that is 2 losses in a row for UConn. 15-point favorites yesterday against the Colorado Buffaloes, and they drop one 75-72. Their second game in a row where they dropped a game by a bucket. Dan Hurley, who had a technical foul in overtime a couple of days ago, sounds off on the officiating and his team's defense yet again.
Yesterday, the biggest play of the game was an over-the-back, that was called against us. And then today, it was more egregious because, the kid, Baskin pulled Liam's arm down. I saw the replay of it. It's obviously, it's ironic, but that's not why I think our defense has been just so dreadful.
I like how he says that's not why, but he led his entire press conference talking about officiating and then throws the defense under the bus. Back-to-back national champs, they're going to be in the mix till the end, but the antics on the sidelines and really getting after the refs it's at another level right now with Hurley and some of the other coaches in college basketball. I'm curious if anything is going to be done during the rest of the year. Big matchup last night between Duke and Kansas, a really good one. Duke rims out a potential game-tying three-pointer at the buzzer from Knuppel, but Kansas, who has really not ducked anybody on their schedule, gets another victory, will remain number one in the country for the foreseeable future. Here's John Shire commenting on his team's youth.
Obviously, Coach Self, man, is one of the best. He's done a terrific job always. So a ton of respect for them and give them credit. And for us, look, it's easy. It would have been easy to hold in that kind of game. And the way they came out, I thought they made some tough shots, to be honest with you. I thought we missed some open ones, and we just stuck with it. Just kept fighting. We're asking a lot of our 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. We are, and that's what they want. I thought the character and the heart of our team really showed tonight. And as much as I badly want to win, I think maybe at some point, I've thought about if I'm crazy, for the schedule. We've had our first 6 games, but I did it with this group because I felt they could take it. And I felt that they're wired the right way. They have toughness about them. And the growth that we're going to have from this game, this whole trip, playing at Arizona and then come back and play Kansas on a neutral site, we're going to grow so much. So I'm disappointed, wanted to win badly for our guys. I want to win badly, but we're going to learn so much and be better from this.
3 other huge matchups last night. Number 4, Auburn takes down the Tar Heels 85-72. So Auburn with another ranked win there. The top 10 battle goes to Alabama as they beat Houston in overtime 85-80. They nearly won it on a 3-quarter court buzzer shot in regulation, but they go on to win it in overtime. And Oregon comes storming back in the second half to beat the Texas A&M Aggies. 16-0 run in the second half to get that victory. Feast week rolls on. There's over 70 games today. We're going to talk with Mike DeCourcy in about 4 minutes to talk more about college hoop. The Suns hand the Lakers their first cup loss this season, winning 127-120 in Phoenix with Durant and Beal coming back off of injury. Milwaukee is a perfect 3-0 in group play. They beat the Heat 106-103, and the T-Wolves' struggles continue. They lose 117-111 in overtime at home against the Rockets. DiVincenzo did not play the last 25 minutes of this game. A lot of rumors swirling about whether he'll be there long term. 28 teams in action tonight on the hardwood, so lots of NBA in addition to college basketball. The The Vikings signed Daniel Jones to their practice squad. So released by the Giants, he does find a home. He wanted to be with a contender. I'd say it's fair to say that the Vikings at 9-2 are one of those contenders. He will not unseat Sam Darnold, and it's just a practice squad place for now. We'll see if he works his way onto the active roster as a backup at some point. J.K. Dobbins of the Chargers suffered a knee sprain in Monday's loss to the Ravens, and it will miss some time. It is to be determined how much time that will be, but it sounds like it may not be quite as serious as some feared. Still, he will be out. Tyreek Hill's traffic citation dismissed, that famous incident from early in the season where he was thrown to the ground. Disagreement with police officers, to say the least. So everything dismissed, and he sounded off on Twitter by saying, "We're all the internet cops now." He moves on, and they will play tomorrow night against the Green Bay Packers. We'll speak about that game a little bit later today. Giants' Brian Dable says Tommy DeVito not 100% to play tomorrow, so we'll find out more in the next 24 hours. Drew Lock would have to step in if Tommy DeVito is unable to go, but he's pretty banged up. And the Commanders put Austin Seibert on IR after the missed kicks. First, the Cowboys missed 2 extra points, cost them the game. He took responsibility for it. He was very upset, and now he lands on IR. He had previously had an injured hip, so some questioning whether or not he should have been out there. We won't question all the action we have coming up for the rest of this show. Mike DeCourcy will join us to talk more college hardball.
Your main event, Tale of the Tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6'8". Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs.
Welcoming in Mike DeCourcy to NewsWire. He's of the Sporting News, talking college hoop. And, Mike, we were talking during the break. You can't get much more college hoop than we've gotten the last 2 days. Over 60 games yesterday, over 70 games today, and we'll continue in through the Thanksgiving weekend with a lot more hoop. But we start with UConn and their second consecutive loss by a bucket. Dan Hurley has had a lot to say to the officials on the court and about the officials off the court. So what do you think is going on with UConn at the moment?
Well, I think it starts at the point guard position. They brought in a freshman named Ahmad Noel. They haven't really been ready to trust him at that spot. Against Colorado, they decided to start Hassan Diarra, and he did register some assists, but he brings them down a little bit in overall offensive ability. He's an ideal 13-minute-a-game player. It's why he was a championship player 2 years in a row, playing 13, 14 minutes a game, but not an ideal starting point guard. That limits the opportunities for a great player like Alex Karaban, who winds up 1 of 8 against Colorado. I will say, though, I watched Colorado play against Michigan State, and I thought, look, they were really good a year ago, rebuilding year, okay, fine, but they were not. I mean, I was really not impressed by Colorado against Michigan State. So I was astonished that they were able to hang with UConn. Maybe it was just a bad day when they played the Spartans, but UConn has a lot to fix, especially at that point guard spot. Noel had about 5 assists in that loss yesterday. So maybe it's time that they go ahead and trust him, because the ball's not moving well enough right now with the current players.
Yeah, 15-point underdogs was Colorado before they pulled that off against UConn. They step up against Iowa State today as 13.5-point underdogs. Maui has had some really fascinating games. It's been, of all of these MTEs, Mike, it's been pretty fascinating to watch some really good teams take each other on, and obviously we've had a couple of upsets as well. We'll see. What are your thoughts on Iowa State taking on Colorado today?
Yeah, I think it should be a game. As I said before, it's hard for me to fathom a Colorado victory, except if Iowa State does not rebound well. That's one of the things that happened to UConn, was that they did not rebound well against Colorado. And Michigan State, one of the clear advantages that they had against Colorado was just absolute dominance of the board. Rebounding is not really Iowa State's main thing. But they have to do an adequate job. They can't be beaten there. If they hang even, they should win the game because they're superior on offense and much better with their backcourt defense. But if they get beaten on the boards, that could give Colorado a chance.
Kansas improves to 125-56 in games decided by 5 or fewer in the Bill Self era, so they know how to win these close ones. A buzzer-beating potential game-tying shot by Duke falls off the rim, and Kansas remains undefeated. They've beaten Duke 75-72, Michigan State 77-69, and North Carolina 92-89 so far this season. So, Mike, they're not ducking anybody early, and they're still a clean sheet thus far.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about their team. Obviously, Hunter Dickinson getting himself ejected from a huge game was not ideal, and he really needs to control his behavior in games. This is not the first and only time he's had an issue. If it were, we probably wouldn't even be talking about it. But his behavior on the court needs to become focused on the game, as well as Kansas needs to find a secondary option. I think A.J. Storr has to become a more prolific player, more minutes, more shots, just more belief in himself. He didn't lack for that at Wisconsin a year ago, but he's trying to find his way into a new rotation, a new program. I think KU can now afford to let him run and say, go ahead, take your shots, because they've got a lot of really good complementary scorers and the best defensive player in the country in KJ Adams, but they need more scoring from the perimeter.
North Carolina falls to Auburn yesterday, but Auburn improves to 6-0. They're a top 5 team in the country. They take on perhaps a little bit of a surprising Memphis team who had a lot of turmoil during the offseason with their coaching staff, but they moved to 6-0. That's the Maui Championship today. What do you feel like Memphis can do against this Auburn team?
Yeah, I think where Memphis has struggled, even in winning their first 2 games, they've been great. To win those 2 games, UConn was huge. And then again in the semifinals, another enormous victory, this one over Michigan State. In both of those games, they built significant leads and struggled in the final 3 minutes to close out. Even though they've got multiple ball handlers, multiple attacking players, excellent free throw shooting when the ball's in those players' hands, they've got to be able to be more aggressive in those situations at the right times. Obviously, kill the time, but then be aggressive. Instead, they're killing time and then taking pull-ups. They're not getting fouled, and they're not protecting their leads. If they're able to get a lead against Auburn, and I would probably say that Auburn is able to control this game, but if they're able to get a lead against Auburn, they have to close out. Auburn defensively, as good as a team as there is in the country right now, 1 to 5 on the floor and 1 to probably 9 on overall in their lineup. They're an excellent defensive team. I think Memphis struggles against that today.
Had a really good one last night, Alabama against Houston, 2 top 10 teams. I watched that one, and I came away thinking both of these teams are going to be here at the end of the season. They're both really good.
Yeah, they're both really good. Houston, I worry a little bit about their offense, but having to ride L.J. Cryer for 30 points is not really a recipe for success. But they'll be great defensively. And Alabama, I believe, is the most talented team in the country, and they still have a lot of pages to get to. I think they'll get there. Mark Sears gives you a nice place to start, one of the best players in the country, but eventually they'll get to involving more of their players, building a more consistent rotation. I had picked Alabama to win it all. I've seen nothing that suggests I made the wrong pick.
I have to agree with you. I was at the Final Four last year. I didn't feel like Alabama even played their best basketball in the tournament last year, and they still got to the Final Four. So to your point, as they uncover more layers, they could be an even more dominant team. They take on Rutgers today. Rutgers, obviously, with a couple of really interesting pieces on their team. Great stuff from Mike DeCourcy from Sporting News. I'll be back with more right after this.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, hey, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? Because I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Now we do our SportsGrid sound off. A couple of big stories, and we got some personalities like our own Joe Lisi commenting on Texas and Texas A&M this week. All right, here's Joe Lisi. Here's Joe Lisi talking about the Lone Star Showdown, where Texas is favored by 5.
It's a showdown this coming Saturday in Kyle Field. SEC championship implications on the line. Top-ranked Texas takes on Texas A&M. Texas opens up as a 7.5-point road favorite. Last week, we saw the Longhorns dominate. Kentucky won that matchup in Austin by 17 points. Did not cover, though, as an 18.5-point home favorite. Longhorns are averaging 36.5 points per game, only allowing 12 points to opposing offenses. On the flip side, we saw Marcel Reed and Texas A&M start slow on the Plains in Auburn. They trailed in the first half last week, 21-0. Got the lead in the fourth quarter, actually held a 31-28 fourth quarter lead, but allowed it to slip. The game went into overtime, and Auburn prevailed 43-41. Early on, you got to like Texas in terms of laying the 7.5. They're a confident group, better defense overall. We'll see how it plays out. I'm laying the wood with Texas. Now, Mike, back to you.
Yeah, so Quinn Ewers' injury situation adds a lot of drama to this as well. He's practicing, but wearing an ankle brace and everything else. Well, there's just so much drama packed into that, because what happens with Ewers if he wants to come back another year? Will he be able to stay in Texas? Seems unlikely with Arch Manning sort of being ushered into the starting role after this year. Ewers has had some first-round rumors in the past, but a little bit of sporadic play and sporadic health this year has led to a lot of questions about a lot of the quarterbacks. Move on to the second topic related to this game, and that's Steve Sarkisian, the Texas head coach.
This week. I don't think that, I definitely acknowledge it. And rivalries are great because of the buildup, right? And because of the excitement and all of that. And rivalries are great for I always jokingly say this, for about the first quarter or so. But at the end of the day, winning football games, it comes down to execution, comes down to playing with the right physicality, comes down to playing, how you play in the critical moments, the special situations as they present themselves. And I think you perform well in those situations through really good preparation. And so as much as we'll acknowledge the rivalry, as much as we'll acknowledge, trying to play to get ourselves in the SEC championship game, we're going to come right back to today. And what do we need to do today to put forth a positive performance? And so, and that's not new for us. That's kind of how we've always kind of gone about it. We acknowledge the game and what the game is about, and then we get right back to what do we need to do to perform.
So it's an interesting dynamic with this game because we were setting up for A&M and Texas to both probably be positioned as playoff teams heading into this week's game. A&M drops the game at Auburn in overtime, and there's a different dynamic. A&M out of the playoff almost certainly, and Texas fighting to be the SEC champ potentially, with a total right now of 48.5 and the spread at 5.5. We'll see what Mike Elko thinks about, Texas A&M's head coach Mike Elko thinks about the matchup this weekend.
I just think making sure they understand the magnitude of what this game means to Aggies, no different than what it means to them on their side, I'm sure.
Second row on the left, Alex.
When you've talked to fans or supporters throughout the offseason, has there been anything people have asked you about more than this game?
No, not even a little bit. So, this means a lot.
Yeah, and I guess now that it's actually here, is it nice that you can stop talking about it and actually play the game?
I think just in general, and I've said this from day one, I think when you have two programs as large as these two programs are, as close to each other as they are, it doesn't make a ton of sense for them not to play. So it always felt weird not playing. And so now to be playing and to be playing for what we're playing for, I'd imagine it'll be pretty electric Saturday.
Massive game, obviously, at Kyle Field on Saturday, along with some other big ones. We had a few games. We had a couple of games last night. Some action where Akron upsets Toledo 21-14 in overtime, and Buffalo rolled over Kent State 43-7. They cover as 22.5-point favorites. Tomorrow, we have Tulane 13.5-point favorites over against Memphis. 55.5 is that total. Back with the Legal Sports Report after this.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way way you coach this football team, I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas, you know?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are back on NewsWire, welcoming in Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. Got some interesting news, as always, to discuss. And Sam, good to have you on here. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. I don't know that we would typically start talking about the state of Wyoming, but here we are. And Wyoming has something interesting related to athlete harassment as a potential challenge to what is happening in their sports books.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for having me on, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family as well. You're right. It is kind of funny to be talking about Wyoming on a news show. It's such a small state, and you really don't think about it ever with sports betting. They don't have many sports teams. Frankly, I can't name one, but they've actually been pretty important as it goes with sports betting regulation and doing things that happen in Wyoming that another bigger state adopts. We saw this last year with states that took aim at daily fantasy sports operators that offered basically player prop parlays. Wyoming was really the first one to take action against them. And now we have the latest thing to come out of Wyoming is they just passed the ability for sports books, sports betting apps to now ban anyone who is found guilty of harassing an athlete. Obviously very significant. We've talked about this issue in sports betting pretty much since the dawn of time, from the days of Jack Molinas and the CCNY scandals and college basketball in the 1950s and 60s, all the way up to now, where you see on social media athletes getting sent, messages either threatening them or calling them out. We see it a lot with fantasy football, but really in college sports is kind of where this debate has coalesced. So now sports betting apps will be able to ban anyone who is deemed to have sent an explicit threat, a sort of suggestive threat, send a photo. They really have a lot of lateral leverage or a lot of authority here to ban anyone who's deemed to have kind of harassed an athlete based on betting. We've seen this pop up in the last year with the NCAA calling for states to ban player props on college athletes, ban betting on different colleges. A number of states already had those rules kind of baked into their law, but then we saw once the NCAA called for it, more and more passed this. Frankly, I think this is really interesting because instead of, not allowing people to bet things, thinking that that's going to help prevent harassment, you actually have sort of a proactive, direct approach here where if someone does something, they'll be banned and they can't bet on a legal sports book. So interesting to see sort of the first state move through on this. I'd be really interested to see if others follow in the coming years, if they're deemed to have had success with it here, and especially the industry. If you're a FanDuel or DraftKings and you say, hey, maybe this has worked really well in Wyoming, you have those relationships with the other big states, the New Yorks of the world, the Pennsylvanias and New Jerseys, to say, hey, they had a great idea here, maybe it'll work here. So interested to see how this works out kind of in the first iteration, and then where potentially next it could move to after that.
Agreed. There's several layers to it, Sam, right? You have Wyoming that started sports betting in 2021. There are 13 states currently that do not allow for college prop betting. So the players being under the microscope for, including New York, where I live. So you don't have the ability to do that. Obviously, there's a lot of restrictions where University of Wyoming is the biggest game in town in Wyoming, but there are many restrictions that in your state where you're betting. You're not going to be able to bet on the local college team. I can't bet on Syracuse. I can't bet on Iona and Fordham, and the list goes on. So, but there's layers to it. There are removing college props from being bet on. There's Charlie Baker calling for that to be restricted. And then Wyoming, to your point, taking it a step further. Yes, we can institute no college prop betting and take Charlie Baker's suggestions, but to your point, specifically excluding people that are acting in that manner.
Yeah, definitely. They went a step further here. And, just because you can't do it in New York, I live in New York too, but I know plenty of people who do bet on college props in New York. That's another thing. When states make things illegal, they take them off the legal apps. That's great. But a lot of the times you're just kind of forcing people more into the shadows, where if you really want to bet on something, you're doing it offshore. And when you're betting on something offshore, it's not getting tracked by these integrity monitoring services that have caught the athletes that have manipulated games and stuff. When we talk about the scandals that happened back in the day, that was all offshore. That was all illegal stuff. So when you push stuff to the shadows, unfortunately, it kind of attracts those shadowy figures if something bad is going to happen as well.
We stay in Wyoming, where they have forwarded a bill to they refiled online casino legislation. So Wyoming expanding the options for folks to be able to bet on sports.
Yeah, another case where, hey, it's just Wyoming. How much could this really matter? But we only have 7 states that have legalized online casinos so far, which for the industry, they'd really like to see that number grow. It really hasn't grown much in the past couple of years. So Wyoming is actually going to be pretty interesting, in my opinion, because it's a smaller state where they're going to have to navigate the same hurdles, deal with the same stakeholders that they would in a much bigger state, whereas they eventually do want online casino. It's going to be a really good example once we see the bill filed in December, according to the reporting from Matthew Cradell, who works for the sister site of LSR, Play USA. He's saying it's going to be a really good example of how they navigate the state interests, the industry interests, and the tribal interests. This new study just came out, which said that Wyoming stands to make about $40 million a year in taxes once it's eventually passed. Now, if you're a tax expert or you know anything about how much states make in revenue, it's really not that much. So the big selling point, again, here is going to try to be making it legal and sort of creating a boost for the economy in Wyoming of itself. Now you have the tribes who are going to want their piece. You have the folks that own casinos that might also own a betting app that might be worried, hey, if you give everyone a casino in their pocket, are they not going to come into our state? So it's a lot of things for the industry to navigate. It kind of makes sense that they'll kind of try to use Wyoming as their test case. If we can do it in this smaller state, maybe we can take some of that momentum and bring it to a bigger state. Now, if it doesn't work in Wyoming, they're going to have to go to the drawing board and figure that out first. But before you see it in New York, before you see it in California, Texas, wherever else, it's going to start in these smaller states. And that's what we'll watch sort of this legislative session as the lawmakers go back to the state houses.
Wyoming, our least populated states of $40 million in tax revenue, may actually make a bigger impact for them. I know you're working on a story with FanDuel's co-founders launching something called BetHog. Can you explain a little? We have about 2 minutes. Can you explain a little bit about what BetHog might be?
Yeah, sure. BetHog is the latest sort of legal sports betting alternative, the latest alternative to a legal sports book that was built by the founders of FanDuel, which is the biggest sports book in America right now. You've seen these websites pop up where this one is only taking cryptocurrency. Interestingly enough, you might ask, why would they not want real money to be bet on the platform? And the reason, quite frankly, is because if you use real money to bet on a platform, a lot of times you meet a state's definition of gambling. And these are platforms that do not want to be regulated as gambling, so they can avoid the taxes, fees, regulatory scrutiny associated with legal sports betting, the reason that makes it such a hard business. But we've seen these people with a lot of weight behind their name, these folks who founded FanDuel, now starting this company. They've got a lot of other companies that popped up in the space, whether it's using fantasy sports, whether it's using sweepstakes models, kind of these alternatives to legal sports books that have popped up trying to capitalize on this boom of sports betting, which has followed ever since PASPA was repealed. So it's going to be an interesting kind of thing to watch here, whether states start to regulate this stuff more, go after it. But pretty significant that you have people who founded FanDuel starting this company and a lot of investors behind them as well. what they call a legitimate product. We'll see if the industry cracks down on them or if states begin to take issue with them as well. So another interesting thing for next year.
All right, great stuff from Sam McQuillan. He's on Legal Sports Report. He appears every week here with us on SportsGrid, giving you the latest updates on Wyoming and all other state sports betting bets, casino information as well. So, Sam, Sam, happy Thanksgiving. And we're going to be back with pro football and the Dolphins after this.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, hey, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcoming in Adam Beasley. He's the senior NFL reporter for Pro Football Network. He joins us from Miami to talk about the Miami Dolphins, who are on fire, Adam. 3 in a row. They beat the Pats, Raiders, and Rams in their last 3. Just missed out on a big win against Buffalo off a 61-yard kick, but it's kind of what I thought may happen. Tua comes in. He starts operating the offense the way it's intended, and the Dolphins are making a legitimate playoff push.
Yeah, no, it's the old Godfather Part 3. Just when I thought I was out, you pulled me back in. That's how Miami Dolphins fans feel this year because, look, I mean, it was just absolutely brutal about a month ago. They were losers of 6 of 7, and you mentioned that Bills game. They had 2 last-second kicks to beat them against the Bills and the Cardinals. But I think in both those games, we saw an offense find its identity. And Tua Tagovailoa has been playing at an otherworldly level since his return from IR. I think he's completing over 75% of his passes. Believe 11 touchdowns, 1 interception during that stretch, completely off the charts. And it's not like he's just beating up on bad defenses. Sure, the Patriots and Raiders aren't very good. Rams aren't bad. Bills aren't bad. Cardinals aren't bad. Those are teams that he had quality showings against. And it gives, I would think it should give Dolphins fans encouragement as they go through this last stretch of the season that it's something sustainable.
Yeah, I think back to that Cardinals game. If I'm a Dolphins fan, that's probably the game I'm kicking myself more about than some of the others. They had a lead. They were outplaying the Cardinals, and it just fell apart late. But let's try to move forward, because you and I talked just briefly before this segment started, and the upcoming schedule is somewhat favorable to them. It's probably not – there's a couple of teams that are not exactly what they thought they were, notably the 49ers, but it starts tomorrow with a big game at Green Bay. Tua's numbers are going to be repeated 100 times before tomorrow, probably much more than that. In these cold weather games, he has struggled. He's 1-7 when the temperature dips below 50 degrees, and at Lambeau tomorrow, it'll likely be closer to 30 degrees. So expectations for them taking on what is a very tough Packers team tomorrow.
Yeah, he said after the game on Sunday he's out to kill narratives this week. He'll have that opportunity. Yeah. There's been a triple whammy for the Mike McDaniel Miami Dolphins in the last 3 years. Can't play in the cold, is to your point. Can't play against good teams. Can't play on preseason. This Thursday is all three of those. Here's some real quick numbers for you. Tagovailoa was 0-4 in his career when game time temperatures are 40 degrees or less, completing 54.5% of his passes. His passer rating 68.2. The Dolphins, when in the McDaniel era, when it's 55 or below, they're 2-10. No matter who the quarterback is. Prime time under McDaniel, 3-9. And here's really what's just pretty indicting of the Miami Dolphins under Mike McDaniel. They are 5-14 in the regular season when their opponent enters the game with a 500 or better record. They really struggle against the good teams, and that's why people around the league kind of see them as paper tigers.
Right. So specifically about their offense, Jalen Waddle has an explosive game the other day. Jonnu Smith has actually had a really good stretch here. Tyreek Hill has been in the background more than we're accustomed to seeing him. His legal issues are behind him for now, and there has been a lot of talk about his physical health. Do you see there being any kind of a breakout, whether it's tomorrow or in the games ahead for Tyreek?
Yeah, at some point, teams are going to have to get out of playing this too deep against the Dolphins. The Dolphins have figured out a way to beat it with Jonnu Smith, with Devon Achane. They're getting the ball in space in the short and intermediate parts of the field, and they're just eating teams alive. I mean, their third down efficiency since Tua has come back is over 60%. It's incredible what they've been able to do on third down. So, yeah, the Dolphins are saying, you're giving me 3rd and 3, we'll live there because we feel like we can convert it. At some point, I don't know if it's this weekend or not, at some point, it's going to be advantageous for teams to flip that, to go back, bring a safety down, maybe an 8th man in the box, play a different kind of defense than just doubling Tyreek and Waddle all day. And whenever that happens, you're going to open yourself up to those home run balls. That's the one thing that's been completely missing from this Dolphins offense. And to me, which is the most encouraging part of what they've done, is they just don't have the home run balls. Like their big plays are completely gone. That's what they were known for the first 2 years under McDaniel. This year, it's been completely the opposite. So that's been defense dictated. We'll see what the Packers do on Thursday, if they're going to continue just to sit back in that too deep shell, or they're going to bring some heat. Tua's really good against the blitz, so I think that's a bad idea.
Jonnu being the catch and run guy is not what I expected out of the Dolphins, but he has had a couple of explosive plays. I love when they are in a mode where they're getting Waddle the ball really consistently. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, but I think they are. Look, what the explosive plays with Tyreek are what you want, but when Waddle can get that ball 7 or 8 times or 9 like he did the other day, that's when I feel like I know that offense is operating at a really high level. Let's close on their playoff potential. There's a big write-up that you did in order to sift through what they need to do in order to pass the Broncos. You give people a taste of that, please?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, is that their tiebreaker situation is really good with Denver because Denver already has a 4th conference loss. Those teams don't play each other. There won't be a head-to-head. So if the Dolphins end up in a tie with the Denver Broncos alone, they're in the playoffs. There's no way, because the Broncos already have a 4th loss and they have more conference games still to play than the Dolphins. How it would work was they would just lose too many games in the AFC. Now, can the Dolphins get to 10 wins? That's the question. And do the Broncos lose another game or two? I mean, those are really unknowns. Broncos at 7-5, their schedule isn't exactly difficult to go down the stretch either. So that's what they're going to need. I think they're going to need at least 10 wins. We'll see maybe the Ravens and or the Chargers come back to the field as well. Do I think they're going to do it? Probably not. PFN, we ran our advanced stats 34.9% of the time in all of our sims. The Dolphins make the playoffs. I think that's about right.
All right, so we got a puncher's chance. You know, a third of the time you're running the sims, that's where they go. The Shaq Barrett thing was interesting. Adam does a great write-up. You can find him on Twitter at Adam H. Beasley. Shaq Barrett unretires, and it kind of puts the screws to the Dolphins to welcome him back to the team and pay him the rest of the way, or release him so he can go somewhere else. Is that fair to say, Adam?
Yeah, and look, they need the help. They're fifth worst in sacks in the season. Chop Robinson's come along, but you never say no to pass rush help in November.
Great stuff from Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network. I'll be back to close it out after this.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was Lincoln! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Fillet Indiana. They would smash them. Honestly.
You listen to yourself speak. That's not a reality question. They have not played each other. You are using hypothetical.
And they got embarrassed.
So many
if
teams
they would have won that football, yes, that's you're
but that's the thing,
correct.
No.
The only argument is Indiana is a decent football team and a product of their environment.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
He shouldn't need to hire outside help at this point to be able to help him, let alone outside help, Joe, that used to work for him.
Until they get him out of the way, I just don't see how this gets any better. And like you said, who are you picking from? Because most people who know the league want nothing to do with the ownership group there with the Jets.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, closing out NewsWire. Thanks for watching and listening today. And for Craig Mish, happy Thanksgiving to him, allowing me to fill in for him today. And thank you to our guests. We had Mike DeCourcy on college basketball. Adam Beasley just talked to us about the Miami Dolphins. And then Sam McQuillan giving us updates on legal sports betting and casino news. Thank you to my producers, Frank Bartunik, Luke Kane, our technical director, and Steve Armato on graphics. That all their work is appreciated for making me look and sound as good as I can. Luke Kane has a huge bingo matchup tonight, so good luck to him as we head into the holiday weekend, and good luck to all of you that want to place some wagers. Keep it tuned into SportsGrid all weekend long. I'll be here on Sunday to talk pro football. Let's close it out with rumors surrounding Kyle Shanahan and his job security. Geez, guy can't have one off season. He's had injuries abound, but Deebo Samuel addresses these rumors about Kyle Shanahan. Quote, "You can't show me a losing season that he's had since I've been here." This Samuel said when he's asked if he thinks Shanahan is on the hot seat. First year, Super Bowl. Second year, COVID hit. Year after that, NFC Championship. Year after that, NFC Championship again. Last year, Super Bowl. So it's like, why are you saying he's on the hot seat? At the end of the day, we're 5-6 right now, but we've got like 6-7 games ahead. Yeah, it's 6, buddy. So they don't. Maybe they have 7 if they make the playoffs. Niners struggling right now. Brandon Allen was terrible the other day. We'll see what the Brock Purdy prognosis is for the rest of the way. But the Niners just haven't played that well, and injuries have been a big part of it. So we'll see what that looks like going forward. Kent State. All right, our Ben Fox, who is a sports betting writer, has a tweet here outlining what every bettor that's a fan of a team would like to say. Like, there's always a chance. What if I just throw $100 on it? I'd hate myself if I didn't throw $100 on my team to win it all. Well, one bettor at DraftKings wagered $100 on Kent State to win the college football playoff at 10,000 to 1 odds. Just $100, right? He would have won $1 million. Well, Kent State finished 0-12 with a point differential of -362. So, you know what? Maybe keep that $100. Maybe put it on something that's a little bit more winnable than throwing a prayer. I appreciate the fandom, though, and good luck to the Flashes as they move into the future. And finally, we're going to close it out with a little bit. As much as I like to be serve the community, I'm going to be a little bit selfish right here. My very own BC Eagles, who won a football game against North Carolina, who had subsequently fired their coach, so good luck to Mac Brown in the future, but it made BC bowl eligible. This is my BC Eagles football hat. Well, last night on the hardwood, Josh Beadle of BC Hoops hits a 3 just before the buzzer to beat the Boise State Broncos in the Cayman Islands Classic. I think that's what it's called. They were 10.5-point dogs, so we're on a roll. Frank Bartunek teed this one up for me, so I appreciate it. I get to celebrate my BC Eagles. Hopefully, we get a win against Pitt on the gridiron and keep rolling in hoops. Done with the rebuilding years. This is the year where it all happens. They haven't made the NCAA tournament in 15 years in hoops. This is our year. So hopefully this is your year, and this is your holiday season getting off to a good start. So we're going to have a lot of fun at SportsGrid all weekend long. We are going to be covering the games all day tomorrow. Started off with pro football today and then run through all 3 games. You've got, obviously, matchups, Lions and Bears, Giants and Dallas, and then the Dolphins and the Packers. A lot on the line for some of those teams, notably the Packers and the Dolphins game could have a huge impact. See if the Lions keep rolling. It's a funny thing about the Bears right now because people are talking about, Caleb's playing a lot better. They're playing a lot better. Well, they're not. I don't have any wins to show for it. The Bears have lost 4 games in a row. They've fallen to 4-7, and they could be the type of team that they've lost 5 in a row. They've lost all the games since their bye week, and then they're at the Lions tomorrow, at San Francisco, at Minnesota. That's not great. They could be 4-10 before we know it, and then they play the Lions again. Good luck. As well as Seattle and Green Bay. There's an argument. First of all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 of their last 6 games are against teams that will make the playoffs. The only one that is out of that mix right now is the San Francisco 49ers, who could be healthy by the time they play them. So good luck to Matt Eberflus guiding this ship. Yes, they've looked a little bit better offensively, but no wins to show for it. Doesn't really matter. Luke, good luck at bingo, buddy. Go Eagles. We'll talk to you